Hello and welcome once again to New Junction. Right, as you can see, the layout has changed a bit since last time because I've made a start on the scenery, and I think you'll agree with me, it's making quite a bit of difference, especially with both the heritage line below and the main line running above. So in this episode, which will be a more of a step-by-step how-to, in my own way, how do I go about sculpting out the scenery. So I'm going to take you back now to back when the boards were still as they were in the last episode, and we'll see how I got to this stage. Join me as I'm marking out on the plywood board here where I'm going to cut the plywood off. So all this is about to go because this is going to be an embankment. I'm then going to move up here because this is also going to be an embankment as well. So I'm going to cut from here somewhere along this sort of line with my circular saw, and then pack it out with foam, and then using a knife or a hot wire cutter I'm going to then try and shape this so that seam hopefully all blends as one. So as you can see, just by taking this part out of the board, and of course taking that corner off, and then thinning out this edge, it's actually just made the baseboard feel a bit more spacious, a bit more open, which lends itself to this scene. Now what I'll do now is I'll fill this with polystyrene, and then using a hot wire cutter I'll make the whole thing scape together, and I'm also going to try and add a road to join here to the what is the engine sheds. So I've got these big sheets of polystyrene there. I think they're 50mm thick, and they're sort of 2 foot by 8 foot, I think, from my local hardware store. And just snapping them up roughly, I'm now going to fill in the gaps around the baseboard and basically fill in the landform as best I can, because then using a hot wire cutter I'll then be able to scape out some of the hills, so the ground won't be as low as the baseboard to the trap beds, if that makes sense. So all being well, we'll start to get some form of landform, and I do definitely think I'm going to have a roadway coming from the engine shed, coming down here, and then going underneath the heritage line off somewhere, because that'd be quite a nice feature. Maybe even get a motorised vehicle on it, but that's for another day. Right, time to start cutting up polystyrene. So I've moved the camera so you can get a better view of where I'm going with this. So as you can see, I'm building it up slowly with polystyrene. Now this layer of polystyrene is actually stuff that came with some poster, had some items I had. So it's always worth keeping these bits, especially if you've got a model railway on the cars. As you can see, it's all about building up the height of the scenery. Now I'll add a bit more here and then I'll keep going. But not to worry, it's all a bit messy. It's all the fun of the modelling this is making a mess. Polystyrene bits especially clean up really easily with a hoover. But no, this is one of the fun jobs of modelling this. Takes me right back to when I did it for the original New Junction layout, and as you can see, it gets everywhere. Great. So I'm going to continue now and keep building it up. So while I'm sizing up the tunnel mouths just in their final location, I'm using my Mark IIIs here. You can see it is extremely tight. So what I might do at this stage, before I go any further, is actually have these same tunnel mouths printed again, cut again, and I'll have this portal made ever so slightly wider. However, it'll still go in the same position, so that's a good thing. And I've also decided, I think as the scene's coming together, and bearing in mind here will be going up to trees and hillside and basically the end of the scene, I was thinking I've still got some baseboard here, so my boards down below still come out another 6 inches or so. So what I think I'll do is, using one of my offcuts of timber, or ply I should say, I'm going to put in this board, which you can see I've cut down. This will be cut in half initially, but and I think I'll start building the embankment up on this side, so you really do get a nice scenic vista when trains come rushing by. So if you imagine the hillside and then the trees on top, and then maybe a background of sorts coming through, I think it'll really lend itself to the scene and really start to look like the junction in question. So I'm now going to prepare the polystyrene for this section, and then hoover it up, and I'll show you a nice neat trick after that as to how I start to shape it to become something a bit more realistic than just all this roughly cut polystyrene. So here goes. Right, so you can see I've built up pretty much the framework now for the polystyrene. Now, the next step, I'm going to have a massive tidy up, clean up all the loose bits of polystyrene with a proper hoover. The joys of using a handheld hoover is they're usually a bit weaker, so therefore they don't sort of suck up all the big blocks of polystyrene, they just take the small bits. And as you can see, we've got a good base now for the main scenery. So the next job, once I've done all that, is I'm going to use a hot wire cutter, which I'll plug in, and I'll start sculpting out the scenery, and hopefully this will start to look a bit more pleasing to the eye rather than being so sheer on all the sides. So all these embankments will go up nice and gradually, bearing in mind that less is more with this kind of thing. I also think, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to carve down a roadway here, and then that will go underneath the baseboard, which hopefully will add a bit more interest, scenic interest, to this scene, because you'll have the railway bridge over the heritage line and a road bridge underneath that, so everything adds details and so I suppose starts to blend it all in. So yes, hot wire cutting next. So what is a hot wire cutter? Now, it's fairly self-explanatory. This is one off Amazon. It costs between £20 and £30 and comes with various attachments. Now, you plug in the handle, as it were, and you've got this semicircle with a wire attached. Hopefully you can see that. And that heats up, quite literally. And you'll be able to pull it through the various polystyrene and sculpt through the polystyrene, your scenery. Now, as I said, it comes with various attachments. You've also got this probe, as it were, and it's, I suppose you use the tools to carve out the scenery to the best of your ability, which is what I'm about to do. So, more messy modelling. Let's get on. So while the background and this hill in the foreground to you is taking shape, just want to explain what I'm going to do here, because this is a bit more technical than just carving it down. I want to have a roadway going from the engine shed area up here, coming down and then going underneath the layout. Now, I've got a baseboard join here, so I can't have the road in this section, which would have been a natural spot to take the roadway to, but unfortunately, because of the supports underneath here, I don't want it there, so it's going to have to go roughly here. So in effect, I want this line to be on an embankment with the roadway dropping off and then going under. So I'm going to have to switch tools, and I'm going to use the probe. I'm going to jab it in at an angle and sort of hopefully follow it round. That should cut out a nice hillway here, and then I'm going to do the same again in the side and then come down this way, and hopefully, fingers crossed, with a bit of fettling, will create a nice roadway area. So as I say, it's a bit of fun, it's always worth having a go, and like I say, I really enjoy this bit, so I'm going to get on. So while this is starting to take shape, I'm actually going to use some of the spare pieces, which I'm not throwing away just yet, to actually build up this section, and then I'm going to move on to sculpting this roughly into shape all around the tunnel mouth, and hopefully we'll have a good base for the next level of scenery, the next level of building up to the scenery very soon. So, more hot wire cutting. So I think you'll agree we're actually getting somewhere now, and this is starting to ever so slightly blend in. Now, the thing to remember with the polystyrene base, the method I'm choosing to do, is this isn't the top layer of the foundation, as it were. This is literally just building up the mass that'll sit underneath all of the next layers. So it doesn't matter if there's gaps and things don't match up perfectly, because it'll all be joined seamlessly in the next few layers. Right, so the next job is for me to I think I'll let this rest and I'll go away and have a cup of tea and I'll run some trains and just make sure I'm happy with how it feels running around on the layout, because the next job is I'm actually going to glue it down. Now I'm going to use standard PVA wood glue and a few top tips. I've actually got some balsa sticks, which are great for keeping things in line once they've been glued down, because the glue tends to like to let things move or shift and things like that. So all I'll do, for example, glue it down, place it down, poke one of these through, for example. It'll no longer shift, and then I'll add some weight to the top while it dries, and then it'll be quite firm and solid and ready for the next step. Now, of course, you can, before you put the next layer on, whether it be plaster bandage or plaster itself, you can still cut it down with the hot wire cutter or change its shape or even replace it entirely. So don't worry about gluing it. Nothing's permanent. And again, worst case, you can always take it out and do it all again if you really enjoy it that much. But as you can see, very simple process, and I think quite a good result. So, cup of tea time, trains running, then some glue. So all that's left to do now that the polystyrene is gluing and drying, that you can see where the 91's passing by and the 37, is to continue now onto this board, which is just 4 foot remaining, whereas what you can see up there is actually 8 foot. The camera doesn't do it any justice. I thought I'd bring you this slightly shorter video
just to keep progress and the videos a bit more frequent. So hopefully you enjoy it. Do let me know if you prefer it like this in a sort of more shorter and more often format. So as ever, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for tuning in. It is appreciated. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And of course, as ever, thank you to all the channel members and Patreons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Right, I'm going to continue now and crack on with the next phase of the scenery here. And of course, the next layers to slowly build it up. Right. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you very soon in the next one. Bye for now.